you want me to like ask the questions and then we'll like,
Yeah,
okay.
we'll get into it.
Okay. The first question is, was this a useful guide for planning a campaign and what was it lacking if it like wasn't useful?
I mean, I'll start off. I genuinely think it was pretty useful. It taught me a lot of things that I hadn't actually taken into consideration before, because I think the way that the book was divided gave us a lot of like context as to where he got, how he got there, and like how we can move forward and be seen like more as like a person. Because I think a lot of the times when you think about doing campaigns, you think about how effective your message, your proposal is, but you don't actually think about the branding of yourself, which
Mhm.
I thought was interesting. So it like opened my mind about a lot of different things. And I guess we can get into those things like later in our like meeting or whatever to discuss this. I don't really know what I think it was lacking though. Like, because genuinely, at least, I guess I don't really have any other background knowledge on this because I haven't ever really thought about doing a campaign. So,
Mhm.
like, I don't really have much prior knowledge of other than like stuff that I've just like heard or read. So I don't really know about lacking. But as for that, y'all can tap in.
I feel like it did talk about like building a strong team and like good team around you, but it didn't
Mm-hmm.
really focus on how to build a good, like very strong team, and like it could add more tips to like how to train them or like recruit them and stuff like that. So I think that was one of the points that was lacking.
It was definitely more based on like the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one of the most important things that I read, at least, was the part where he basically just says not to run. Um, because I was considering doing a major in political science, but then this book kind of like made me realize that politicians, it's very hard to not be malicious
Hmm.
in a sense. And I think he does a really good job at like detailing how badly running for an election affects your mental health. And I think that's just something that I would not be cut out for. I think he could have described the importance of like focusing on voters as like individual people more,
Hmm.
instead of just like, I think he detailed a lot on like how to appeal to voters
Mm-hmm.
instead
Yeah.
of like viewing them as actual people.
It seemed a lot like marketing in a sense.
Mhm.
Like it was almost, instead of how to run a campaign, it was like how do you market yourself to make people believe you're gonna do a good job. Like,
Yeah.
I think that that's also like, to be a little bit more fair on him, that is a lot of what politics
oh
is.
yeah.
It's like not viewing voters as people, but I think more politicians should do that,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
but most of them don't. So,
I mean, in order to like effectively like lead people, you have to be able to like act instead of just speaking. And I think, I mean, I do like the one man with courage is a majority like thing that he like said in the beginning, and like how like he focuses in on like you need to actually have actions, you need to actually go in the community and experience like from the perspective of the community rather than just being like some outsider trying to like put voice in because it discredits your work. So I did think that that was good, but I agree with like what you're saying about like focusing more on like voters and them as individual people and how you can better them.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to move to the second question?
Sure.
yeah.
It says, could you see yourself if you choose to run for office using some of the guidance and advice of this book? Um,
I'm not gonna run for office.
me
So
neither.
um if I did, would I think that this could be helpful? Sure. But I think like the whole thing about mental health just really like made me realize how much I'm not cut out for it and how much I care about what people think about me. And I don't think I would be able to be under fire like that all the time. And I think it would make me actually like lose respect for a lot of people. So I just don't think I could do that personally.
I would say I'm not gonna run for office, obviously, but I would use a lot of the stuff that this book said, especially for the like campaigning on a budget and stuff, because like obviously I don't have like big amount of monies for like stuff like that. So like it did have like a lot of good tips on how to campaign on the budget and how to like market yourself and stuff. So I do think it's a good book, but you obviously need to read more books and research more, obviously. It's not like a full complete book that has everything you need.
So, I think I said this in the last question, but I was considering doing a political science major. Um, it's just like not how it looks running for office. And I think this book really puts a picture into your mind about like how it actually is and how toxic it can be. I wrote down a quote from the book. It's really long, but he's basically just detailing how much the public gets of your life when you're running in an election, and it's like they see basically every single aspect of your life. And I'm someone that really values privacy, and I know, at least I've talked to my friends about this, but every single mistake you've ever made and will make is criticized
Mm-hmm.
when you're running for office. And the higher up that you get, the more critical people get of you. So that's just not something that I could handle
I
mentally.
think that's to your point about how things end up like turning malicious from a politician's standpoint. I think it's almost inevitable because
Mhm.
of the nature of the business, because you have to have a really strong backbone to be able to do this. So I feel like a lot of times, like, not I don't want to say that the humanity is gone, but you have to like put such a firm divide of like not caring and like being like, whatever, it's just politics, it's just how it is.
Yeah. Okay. The third question is, what do you think is the most important part of being a candidate?
Um, I think it's the ability. I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but the ability to like actually have action. I
Mhm.
don't like I just think there's a lot of times that people will say things and not act on it. So I think it is, even though the book didn't go into incredible detail about it, like it is actually really knowing. I mean, they did talk about knowing your demographics and like knowing the people in your community, but like I think it's going a step further to like actually like psychologically understanding why things are happening, because I think the only real way to actually think of thoughtful change is to thoughtfully think about those around you. And I think that's the difference between making a great leader. I think they touched on a lot about like not being a follower and like actually being a leader, because like people don't want to vote for someone that's just going to do what everyone else has done. You want someone that's going to actually like instigate change. And so I think it's like actually thinking of ideas that are not only realistic, but coming up with like a course of action as to how you can get it done and like how and why people can relate to you. I think that's my opinion.
Um, I think the most important part for me is like the persona you put out and what you like preach and like doing what you actually tell people that you're gonna do, or like how you show yourself on the media and what you like portray yourself to being, and then like being what you actually portray, and like like doing what you actually say you're doing, because that's what people are going to vote for. And if you're not reliable and you're not being honest with the people, then they're not going to vote for another like term or whatever you're running for. So I think that's one of the most important things.
I wrote down that one of the most important parts in a democracy is actually listening to the people who voted for you. Um, I wrote down as an example, like President Biden, how a lot of people voted for him and he just completely 180'd everyone and didn't do most of what people voted for him to do. Like I think he just proposed like the Willow Project, which completely goes against everything that he said he was going to do and like all the environmental change that he was going for. I think the most important part in our country is listening to everyone who supports you and giving them respect and kindness, because in the end they're going to be the people who vote you out of office. So why not listen to them? It's so easy.
Okay. The last question is, what would worry you the most about being a candidate? Concern about going door to door, raising money and commitment, or does any of this bother you?
Um, I think I already touched on it. The mental health aspect is the biggest thing for me, and like having my entire life out in front of everyone. I know that's a huge part of it, and it's just like I think that intimidates me beyond belief, to which I wouldn't be able to do it. I have a lot of resilience when it comes to like I love to achieve things and I would actually like the networking aspect of it, but I have a tendency to like hold on to pessimism and I think that would end up like being a downfall for me. So I think it's safe to say that Madison should not be in politics.
Um, I would say just I don't know. I'm not a very social like person and networking isn't hard for me. It is hard for me. So like going door to door and stuff like that, or like even meeting the voters that it mentioned, um, is really hard for me. And at the like on the other side, committing to it and like it because it's like a really hard job because people
Mhm.
rely on you. So I don't think I would be able to commit to it and I would get tired of it or like it's just too much, like too big of a load on that person's back. So I definitely wouldn't be able to do it.
So I'm pretty sure I could do everything other than just like the mental health aspect. I think I wrote down that like a quote that Henry said in his book to like essentially like I think he said like sometimes the timing isn't right and then you should like fix your mental health before you get in politics. I think other than that, I really there would be no problem other than the commitment, which like I just see I couldn't do a job unless I love it 100% for most of my life. And I feel like politics, you just sorry guys. You just don't get any breaks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're making it your family's life, your kids' life, your friends' life, and everything is viewed, every choice that you do 100% of the time. I just feel like I couldn't fully commit to that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Valid.
After reading this book, I believe it's a helpful guide for planning a political campaign. The book provides practical advice on a wide range of topics, including fundraising, messaging, organizing a campaign term, and using social media. The author draws his experience as a political consultant and strategist, and the book includes case studies and examples of successful campaigns, which was very valuable to me. Although there may be some aspects of the political campaign planning process that are not covered in sufficient detail in the book. For instance, voter targeting, crisis management, legal compliance, and personal branding. One thing to keep in mind is that advice provided in the book may need to be adapted to specific needs and circumstances of a particular campaign.